Today, we're diving into a case that's not just a mystery, but a story that has shaken an entire country to its core. It's a story that forces us to ask some really tough questions about truth, justice, and power. We're talking about the death of Dr. Tariq.
So right from the start, you have this impossible situation. A well-respected doctor is found dead. The official word from the state? It's a suicide. But the evidence, well, the evidence tells a completely different and frankly terrifying story. So what is the truth here? Let's lay out the facts as we know them.
All right, let's start with the basics. The victim is Dr. Tariq. She's a young psychiatrist, just 34 years old, practicing in the city of Basra, Iraq. On August 4th, 2025, she was found dead in her own home. And this is pretty much where the simple, undisputed facts come to an end, and where all the contradictions begin to pile up.
And that brings us right to the heart of this entire controversy. We've got two completely different stories fighting for the truth. Let's put them side by side because you really need to see them together to understand why this case just exploded.
Okay, just look at the massive gap between these two columns. On one side, the official narrative is neat and tidy. The Iraqi judiciary rules it a suicide. Her mother says it was work pressure. And, maybe most importantly, a powerful political group backs that story from day one. But then you look at the forensic evidence, and it's a horror show. We're talking about signs of brutal torture, suffocation, deep wounds to the neck. Her arms were reportedly cut off. You see, this isn't just a small disagreement. It's like two different realities.
And when you dig into the details of the crime scene itself, things only get more and more suspicious. First off, the home security cameras mysteriously turned off. The scene itself was reportedly cleaned up before a proper investigation could even happen. Then, the family refused an autopsy, which, as you know, is a huge red flag in any death like this, and they pushed for an immediate burial. On top of all that, you have the local governor coming out and publicly backing the suicide story, and then there's this chilling detail, the words, "I want God," written in blood, which would have taken a level of strength and consciousness that someone with those injuries just couldn't possibly have had.
And here's the bottom line, medically speaking. Experts have gone on the record saying that the wounds on Dr. Tariq's body were simply impossible to self-inflict. Think about it. If you cut one wrist so severely that you sever the nerves and arteries, you physically lose the ability to do the same thing with the same force to your other wrist. It's a medical impossibility. And that single fact is really the foundation of why the public just does not buy the official story.
You know, a story like this with so many contradictions, it doesn't just stay quiet. The public response in Iraq was immediate, it was loud, and it all came together under one simple banner, turning what was a private tragedy into a national cause. And you can see just how massive that response was. This wasn't just some quiet chatter online. It was a full-blown explosion of activism, both online and in the real world. Social media platforms like TikTok and X, formerly Twitter, were just flooded with the hashtag #JusticeForBan. And all that online anger quickly spilled out onto the streets, leading to protests in major cities like Basra and Baghdad. People weren't just demanding answers for Ban, they were demanding that the entire legal system be reformed.
Now, for so many people in Iraq, the details of this case pointed to a motive that is horribly familiar. And to really get why they were so suspicious, we have to talk about the concept of an honor killing. This is when a woman is murdered by her own family members because they believe she brought shame on them. And a very common tactic in these cases is to try and disguise the murder as a suicide.
And what's so tragic is that the reasons behind these crimes can be almost anything, from refusing an arranged marriage to something as simple as behavior online that someone decides is shameful. This context is absolutely crucial because it helps explain why the public's first reaction was to suspect a cover-up. They've seen this pattern before.
So you can see how this one case just snowballed into something so much bigger. It wasn't just about Dr. Tariq anymore. It put the entire Iraqi judicial system on trial in the court of public opinion, and what it exposed was this deep, deep crisis of confidence.
And the official response really didn't help things. When Iraq's highest judicial body put out a statement saying they regretted all the rumors flying around, people didn't feel reassured. It felt like they were being dismissed. Instead of calming things down, it actually fueled more suspicion. It felt like the system was just closing ranks to protect itself.
Okay, let's connect the dots here because the timeline is just damning. This didn't happen in a vacuum, right? Just a few months before, another female doctor died under suspicious circumstances, and that case just sort of disappeared. Then, with Dr. Tariq, a powerful political group comes out and calls it a suicide before the investigation is even done. And what happens? The court's final ruling matches that political statement perfectly. For so many people, this was all the proof they needed that justice was being decided by politics, not by evidence.
And this whole situation, it brings us back to a really old, really tough question. One that Socrates wrestled with thousands of years ago. He basically argued that if you defy the law, even if you think a ruling is unjust, you risk destroying the whole idea of law and order. And now the people of Iraq were facing that exact same dilemma. How do you believe in the rule of law when you suspect the law itself has been bought and paid for?
So why are we talking about this? Why does one case in one city resonate so powerfully? Well, it's because this story isn't just about a potential crime. It's about the very foundation of what holds a country together.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? See, the judiciary, it's not just another branch of government. It's supposed to be the bedrock. It's the one place where your wealth, your power, your connections, none of that is supposed to matter. Only the facts. And when people stop believing that, when that trust breaks, the entire idea of a stable state starts to fall apart.
It's not an exaggeration to say that a trusted judicial system is the last line of defense against total chaos. It's the mechanism that keeps society from descending into might makes right. When that barrier starts to crumble, the entire structure of a nation is in danger.
Which leaves us with one final, very heavy question. The case of Dr. Bar Tariq is a tragic story, but it's also a warning sign. It forces all of us to ask, if people can no longer trust the courts to deliver justice, if they believe the system is rigged for the powerful, then what's left? What common ground is there to hold a nation together?